How did you get involved in the project?
It's a primarily it's a Monday night gathering where a circle of brothers get to sit and be vulnerable, like we decided from a long time ago, more vulnerable than we get to be in our regular lives. So, like, just from finding peace from that, drama workshops in tow, it's just developed into this, something that we're proud of.
And did you all come up together with the idea as a group, or was it just led by one particular person?
It was collaborative. We kind of worked for about a month and a half, and yeah, maybe like 3 or 4 sessions a week, and we kind of, most of the time was just spent kind of talking about our mental health and being open and honest, as Wallace said, and there was some rehearsing that went on, but mostly it was just kind of, it was improv, and because we kind of had been open and vulnerable with each other and kind of had been in that space and got comfortable with each other, it made it a lot easier to kind of be creative because we trusted each other. So I think that was what was quite unique about the process and facilitated it.
What's it saying? Trust the process.
Exactly.
That left lady over there.
Well, first of all, like, you guys should stand up and bow because that was amazing.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, second of all, I guess for anyone to answer, what was the main message you wanted the audience to take from your show?
And I just said the message that needs to be taken is not the actual message you see on the stage, it's the process. Because when you're being vulnerable, there's also time when there's conflict. And resolving that conflict within the group before it gets to the stage is a message that's to be given over. Every family, every person you've met, there's always going to be conflict. But what makes growth is having to deal with that conflict head on and bring something like this to the stage.
And if I can add to that, I've been asked the question quite a few times now, are the scenes which you're seeing real life scenes, or is it something that's just been made up? And the answer to that question is, we don't know. We don't know. Everybody took their ideas, brought their ideas to the table, and those ideas were mixed in, and we came up with a story. Is there truth in there? Maybe. Does it matter for the play, whether it is? No, it does not. But as has been said, the fact that black men have found a space where they can truly open up their vulnerabilities and feel safe enough to expose it on the stage, that's something they say doesn't exist.
I know one of the things that came up during rehearsal was we were looking for what is this play going to be about? What is this topic? What is this issue? And we spent quite a few weeks sort of going through a creative, explorative process to find that out. And then I remember one session we came up with a list of things that were really important to them. And it was about probably 12, 15 things. The number one thing that they all connected and related and identified as the main issue was, how do we make a piece of theatre that articulates that black men are responsible for the destruction of the black community?
Truly. It's taking some ownership, isn't it? It's taking some ownership. Everyone played their part very well. And watching it, I could see that perhaps there may have been no truth in it. There may have been some truth in it. But I think all of us here could identify or know people that we could identify with in all of those characters.
I think what you can bring to the stage is your emotion, the truth of your emotion. So, and I think when any one of us is acting something out, the emotion behind that performance is how we feel. And you have to tap into that, well, you don't have to. Tap into something that's happened in the past can bring that to the stage.
Yeah.
For me, for example, when I was having to go at Justice about it, I had to tap into something, get my anger coming out, or my stubbornness about revenge. I had to tap into something that actually happened to me in my life. And then that's the process. There's more drama behind the drama often than the actual drama on stage.
No question here.
First of all, well done, guys, for the performance. It was wicked. my question is, I feel like this is a very powerful message, and I think not just, individually for us, for black people, or for people in general that come from this type of background, but also as a political message as well, and have you guys ever thought about, taking this message, to the greater stage, thought about doing this on a grander scale, looking at, bigger theatres, and getting the right type of funding and the right type of access?
We're going in the right, sorry.
I was going to say, I think it's important to understand what this is. The Black Men's Consortium is a voluntary group of people who come to take something out. They come with thoughts, considerations around their mental health, their emotions, and they come to that safe space. They come, they get, and sometimes they stay, and sometimes they go. So the consistency of the group changes all the time. It's a voluntary group, right, which means that nobody's obliged for anything. What is happening because of the productions we have done, and we have done productions before this one, but this is by far the biggest, yeah? We've loved it. We've absolutely enjoyed the whole process. And in simple answer to what you're saying, we would love to do it on a larger scale. We would love to do it more often. What it requires, right, is an infrastructure to make that work. And that infrastructure can't just come from us. We don't have all of those skills. So if there is anybody in the room who feels that this is something that is worth a larger audience and has the skills to make that happen, has the resources to make that happen, please speak to one of us, speak to Tony, because we do want to do it. We do. Oh,
All of that. Yeah. Oh yeah, just tag us on social media. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Insta.
The Black Men's Consortium.
Yeah. In connection with when you were talking about the universality of certain aspects of the dynamics you've watched in this production, that's an area that triggers me all of the time, because normally I'll be trying to be on eggshells and whatnot so as not to offend. But just in the reality of my own living experience, whether it's the dynamics between, the African community and the Caribbean community, going back to when it wasn't as cool to be African before the confidence of, say, the Afrobeat explosion. And now it looking a lot more like this and lovely, and, people even looking at Afrobeat as couldn't work without the, influence of the Caribbean music. And then, that creating more of a harmony that I find a lot more settling. But then at the same time, the more difficult areas of where the universality is across the board. If you go and watch representations in every other race group, you'll see men having to play second fiddle to the more confident alpha or gangsterfied energy that gets first dibs on the women, and then leaving the men who, want to be seen as, get along to go along, granny loves me, your mum loves me, I'm okay. All of that's going on all of the time, and the demonization of that within the black experience, it the ripple effect is a lot of fear.
Okay, there's a lady there. Adrian's got a question. And then the lady over there.
To younger guys, what do your friends feel about you doing this, and how can we encourage more young guys to get involved? Yeah.
You do have friends, right? Because,
He just mixes with us older ones.
I wouldn't say friends. My family, they know. Well, people around me know I've got talent. It's just that I just don't show it as much. They feel. Bare people just say I've got potential, even when I'm on set for a few things. Yeah, for things like on set, people know. They ask me what I want to do, and then I tell them what I want to do. And even because of my age, because I'm 20, they just think, oh, you got bare potential, you got bare time.
Lady over there.
Yeah, he was going to speak.
That leaves me here.
Yeah.
Keep your hands up.
Long time.
Yeah, she's been there from. Yeah.
I just want to say, this has been absolutely amazing. That's my cousin there, grown with him, and this
Who's
isn't
the cousin?
this one right here.
Errol
But
Humphrey.
it's been an absolute pleasure to see them all, and it's built my spirit in such a way. But just wanted to thank you for that. But the main thing I wanted to ask is that you said a lot about vulnerability. Did anyone kind of struggle in the beginning to show that amount of vulnerability?
Vulnerability is not my friend.
I have to say, although we're all here, for me, for example, I have to say thanks, acknowledgement to the female, my wife, in this whole process as well. Because me coming in on a Monday and being vulnerable and then going home and she accepting my vulnerability is also a powerful message for people, partners and so forth. So that's the ricochet effect of what we're doing.
Yeah.
It's not only being vulnerable within this group, but going home and maintaining that vulnerability and that person accepting our vulnerability. That's where growth comes about.
There's Jez here, who's a member of our group as well. Jez.
I just wanted to ask you guys, how did you find
stand up, please?
How did you guys, hey! How did you guys find the rehearsal process, and how has your confidence grown from?
You know what? I have to stand up, Jez.
Stay standing.
This man here. So the scene that I played, he gave me some advice. You know how old he is? He's half my age. And he sat me down. He said, Lloyd.
But he's only 15.
Yeah. So he spoke to me. He said, pulled me aside and said, I think in your character, you need to capture a moment in time where you felt pain, where you felt hurt, and bring it out. And I always remember that. It's unfortunate that he couldn't be part of this play, but he is, because everything he taught me, I delivered. That's why.
Lady over here wants to ask a question.
You have to give credit for credit is due. Sorry.
Can you stand up, please?
If you can. Thank you.
Just curious to know if any of you had any formal acting training beforehand, and if not, what kind of advice would you give to like a younger person or a person who wants to get into what you've done?
Do you want to get into acting?
No, I'm just curious. Kind of those people who don't have the privilege to have the formal training, what can they do to get into it?
There may be people in this audience who could also answer that question.
Let Rachel sort it out.
I'm hoping to answer your question and just share a little bit of where Lloyd said where credit is due. I was introduced to BMC just by a conversation I had with my cousin, who's sitting right there, being very humble, this man behind you, yeah? And that conversation led me to meeting these guys and many more on a Monday night session after work, 6 till 9. It's not actually 6 till 9, it's like 6 till 10, half 10 something, truth be told. So I came into the group, wanted to share my journey, yeah, to empower individuals in the group so they can empower people out there in the community, no matter who you are, children, men, women, it doesn't matter what the colour of your skin is, because mental health doesn't have a colour, right? So I got carried away. 16 weeks later, without fail, luckily, as Chaka said at the end there, tapping into his vulnerability and having support from his partner, I have to say that, I've got a strong partner behind me who supported me to basically develop and understand more about other people's mental health, vulnerability and well-being. So, the answer to your question, I came with no acting skills whatsoever. None. Right? Came with a lot of attitude, but I had no acting skills. And these guys here, some of them, they use football terms. Don't ask me why, that's a question for them. Some of them have been here like 3 seasons. So it's a long time. It's got nothing to do with Arsenal before Lloyd mentioned about Arsenal. Alright? So each and every single one of them, right, I implore as opposed to respect, because all of them, that is where I got my inspiration from. That is where I got my ideas from. Absolutely everything to develop me into a character or individual characters that we created by ourselves. And this man here with the colourful t-shirt, he's partly to blame because Tony is the one that actually puts you in situations where, right guys, we're going to do a thing where you're going to have to close your eyes and fold your arms, and then you're going to basically walk around and start feeling other people. So I'm thinking, are you sure about that? So there we were walking around and then we're squeezing men. Man is all feeling like that. Then we have like sorry, Gwenda.
Thank you for warming your hands before you squeezed me last time.
Gentlemen. That's another example. See, again, that is where I got my inspiration from. So, having said all of that, it gets you out. It actually puts you in a situation where you're finding yourself, even just about senses, thinking, opening up your imagination. And at one point, even said, right, just put yourself into any sort of shape you like, right? And then he says, now, bring the voice with it. How can I bring the voice? So it's thanks to these guys here, and I came with no experience whatsoever. Because of these guys on the panel, I've able to develop what you saw, right, into who I am.
The lady at the back.
Are you men's only theatre group that want to bring out problems that concern black men in London or in
Are women welcome as well?
I'm sorry, no.
Sorry. I'll say this. I was somewhere once, sitting down with a bit of carers, and I was asked the same question, and I said, how much women's groups are there that men is not allowed in? And they're like, hundreds. I said, how much? So can we have this one-man group? Please? Just that one? But yeah.
Can I just answer the question about the lady about acting? You know, we all do something called code switching, depending on the environment which you're in. You know, and that's kind of basis of acting. It's switching. It's literally that. And what you see here, we're switching into characters. And if you have a passion for it, then there are plenty of acting schools out there. But the basis of all acting is able to transform to something else. You know, like when you're about to go out on a Saturday night, Friday night, you do yourself up in front of the mirror. Do I look good? You know, you do a little strut thing, and then you go out there and it's somebody else. That's what acting is about.
We've got one last question here because we have to wrap up for our next show coming at 8 o'clock. Yes.
A couple of you have spoken about how your partners have helped you to be vulnerable. What advice would you give to women so that they can help their partners?
From my point, my advice to give to people to allow their partner to be vulnerable, space. That's what it is. It's sometimes space, and sometimes a moment of like when you're down, you don't necessarily need somebody to talk. You need to talk, just somebody to listen, and then maybe whatever that person, a hug or whatever. But the point is giving space to let them be vulnerable in that space, in that moment, and not interrupting that moment. One of the things I've noticed when I've spoken to women about this, they say, well, I do this in my manner. I said, the problem is that you're doing, and you're not actually sitting back and saying, okay, let me give you a space to do what you need to do, and if you need me, I'm there. We're sometimes quick to save people, and that's not often what we need.
I like that head shake there. I like that head shake.
Okay, so just to kind of wrap up there, relates to men. There are a few other things that men could latch onto, and Chucken could talk about something that he does. And I'd like to introduce Adrian. Adrian runs a group that is also for men. Can you just share, Adrian, do you want to share what group that is and how men can get involved?
Thanks, Steve. I am.
Stand up on the chair.
Okay, thanks, Steve. I run a group called Men Cry Too, and it's for black males who have experienced grief or loss in their life and struggling to come to terms with it. Loss takes form of many features. It could be death, it could be marriage, it could be your job, but how it affects you has a ripple effect. And what we've seen is black men, especially, we don't talk, we don't share, and it builds up inside until often we may end up in mental health institutes. Okay, so what we try to do is just allow a space, as Shaka said, for guys just to come. It's on Zoom. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to show your face, but we do have to know that you're black. And we have guys from Sierra Leone, from Saudi, from West Indies, all join every fortnight and just share space for people. Okay. There's also a mixed group as well on Saturdays from 2 till 4 called Lost Cafe. Is for black men and women to come and share, and where we find that support is where the women allow the guys their space and share and talk and sometimes give advice, but just often just to listen to what we have to say. And if we cry, we cry. If we get angry, we get angry, but that's our space to have that as well. Thanks,
I run a men's walk and talk group, which is usually every Sunday. In fact, we're doing one tomorrow, and it'd be different locations. It could be Brockwell Park, it'd be Hyde Park, it'd be, I think the last week we went to the V&A, we saw the African exhibition, and we go all over, and in the following week we're going to St. Paul's. And the reason why we go to different spaces is also to bring people in space where they don't ordinarily be, and the conversation always changes dynamics as well. And it just echoing what AJ said, it's about giving men space to be open and be vulnerable, and obviously go back into the community and remain that vulnerability and be open as well. And I often get the same question, is like, why aren't we allow women to come in? But as he said, there's very little groups for men out there. And for myself and AJ, I think, because AJ sometimes come in my walk and talk, it's about getting men just to go out and be out there and be in different spaces and explore different avenues and so forth and get to know who you are. The biggest question is, who am I or what am I? Those are big questions that we tend to ask each other. So yeah, that's all I do, men's walk and talk, as well as be part of the men's BMC. Thank you.